Welcome to the SVG-TV news for Monday, June 28th. I'm Khalil Kato with the details. Lahars and more than 30 earthquakes were recorded over the weekend, which was an increase from previous readings. This is according to lead scientist monitoring the La Soufrière volcano, Lloyd Lynch, who gave an update on the volcano this morning on NBC Radio.
Had some Lahar activity over the weekend, Saturday morning. We saw 2 Lahars after heavy precipitation in the morning, and this apparently the precipitation that is apparently caused an uptick again in seismicity. So we saw the number of events jumped up to 33 after it had fallen down to 16 and was trending back to the early June sort of numbers. So it seems like we have a pattern on our hand. Whenever there is heavy precipitation, it influences some sort of uptick in activity.
2 weeks ago, the observatory reported that after the downpour of lahars or mudflows, there were 40 earthquakes. In addition to earthquakes, it was observed from the monitoring station at Belmont that there was also a change in steam venting from the volcano.
I've noticed that there are times when the steam venting stops, and it will stop for several minutes, and then we get these earthquakes, what we call hybrid earthquakes, and immediately after the earthquake, the venting resumes. So it seems as if with the precipitation, it's somehow blocking up the system, constricting it, and there's probably some build-up of steam pressure, which pushes the material inside the crater out of the way, and it resumes venting.
The most recent reading of gas is 200 tons per day. It was also reported today the helicopter, which was here to conduct surveys, returned to Antigua on Friday. However, the lead monitoring scientist said there is still a need for other helicopter services.
We tried the whole day to get into the summit site to finish off that station that we started, and it was not possible to land. It was not safe to land, I should say. So we weren't able to finish that off. And we needed just about an hour to finish it off. So we'll have to revert to plan B. We are keeping our fingers crossed that Her Majesty's guard ship, which is in the region, I think it's in Guyana at the moment.
Okay.
They should be returning up this way. And before they went down, they promised to assist us in getting some stuff on the mountain.
The scientist maintains that there is no new dome growing in the crater, noting that what is being seen is more like a mound of ash. He said generally, the volcano is going quiet, but remains in a state of unrest. Bank Board of Executives approved $50 million in supplemental financing for the second Fiscal Reform and Resilience Development Policy Credit, DPC, for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The bank says the quick disbursing operation aims to help the country cover a large unexpected financing gap and address emergency needs caused by the La Soufrière volcano eruption, which began in April, and it said the original development policy credit was approved in June 2020. World Bank Country Director for the Caribbean, Tahseen Syed, said the volcanic eruption began as SVG was still coping with the devastating socio-economic effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. He said the World Bank values its strong partnership with SVG and remains committed to supporting the people in their efforts to manage the impacts of both COVID-19 and the effects of the volcano. The eruption and the ensuing ashfall, mudslides, and pyroclastic flows have had devastating impacts on people's livelihoods and the economy of SVG. The bank said the supplemental financing to the development policy credit approved last year is expected to help the government address emergency response and recovery needs, while also supporting long-term development goals. The financing, which is from the International Development Association, IDA, is said to be interest-free with a maturity of 40 years, including a grace period of 10 years. Minister of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries Saboto Caesar said in addition to the income support earmarked for fisherfolk, specifically in the red and orange zones, all fisherfolk across SVG will receive significant production support. He shared this with SVG-TV News in a telephone interview on how the support designated for the fisherfolk will be distributed.
In the monies provided for the fisherfolk, there is an envelope for assistance for all fishers as it pertains to production. So if you're looking at the monies for the fisherfolk, you divide it into two parts. One part is income support, the other part is production support. So the fishers in the green zone and in the yellow zone will be receiving significant assistance with their engines. If you need a new engine, if you need an engine repaired, if your boat needs repairing, you get that assistance. Persons with their lobster traps, persons who have different issues in the fishing industry, there is production support for you. So I don't want persons to think that the only support for the fisherfolk is the income support, which is going to the red and orange zone.
Minister Caesar said an assessment dictated the decision that was made to provide fisherfolk in the red and orange zones specifically with additional help in the form of income support.
An assessment was conducted in the immediate aftermath of the eruption. And from the assessment done, the assistance for the fishers, we ensured that in the supplementary estimates that monies were set aside for the fisherfolk. So I want that to be clear first. The income support was provided for in the supplementary estimates for the fisherfolk in the red and orange zones because of the nature of the impact on the fishing industry in those particular areas. And I'm speaking primarily about, when I say the red and orange zones, North Leeward, North Central Windward, and North Windward.
Caesar said the ministry will continue to make assessments in relation to the needs of fisherfolk, and if the findings reveal it's necessary to extend the income support to other fisherfolk outside the red and orange zones, that will be considered.
And I want to make it clear again, abundantly clear, that we recognize that the fisherfolk in the green and in the orange zones, in the green and the yellow zones also are affected. And we have provided and will be providing production support for them. I want to close on this point though, that we have an open door policy at the ministry, and we will continue to have the conversation with the fisherfolk, and we are monitoring the impact that the COVID-19 pandemic, 1, and 2, the resultant implications of the 32 eruptions that is having on the livelihoods of fisherfolk throughout the country. And if upon a further assessment that there is a need to extend the bans for income support, that would be considered.
The minister also appealed to persons not to covet the support being given to the affected persons, noting that this is a time for everyone to stand in solidarity with those who have been most affected by the 32 eruptions of La Soufrière. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves recently revealed that $1.5 million has been allocated specifically for production support of fisherfolk. Statutory rules and orders regarding public health COVID-19 measures for SVG have been updated for vaccinated and non-vaccinated persons. For non-vaccinated persons, the number of persons allowed for outdoor gatherings remains at 20 and 10 for indoors. As for persons who have been vaccinated, the number of persons allowed for outdoor and indoor gatherings will depend on the capacity of the venue. The SRO states that vaccinated persons can occupy 3/4 of the venue, whether indoor or outdoor. Outdoor gatherings listed include an open-air crusade, blokoramas, parties or fetes, gatherings around an open bar, for example, Heritage Square, boat cruises, beach outings, picnics, concerts, receptions, or funerals. All persons attending must have a pre-event documented validation of their vaccination status by the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment. In order to enter an event, vaccinated persons must present their validated vaccination card with a photo ID. The rules state that breaches of the Public Health COVID-19 Gathering Rules 2021 is an offense, and so too is any attempt to disobey or obstruct the people from enforcing the rules. Persons who commit an offense under these rules will be liable for a fine of 1,000 EC dollars. The revised protocols or rules, which took effect on June 16th, will last until the end of December. However, the Minister of Health is expected to review the protocols monthly. St. Vincent and the Grenadines still has approximately 4,000 AstraZeneca vaccines which expire in a few days' time, and on radio today, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves said arrangements have already been made for them to be donated to Trinidad and Tobago so that they can be used up before the expiry date.
We have some vaccines which are expiring from AstraZeneca for 4,000 and a little bit by the end of by Wednesday, and I gave approval to the Chief Medical Officer on Saturday to offer them to Trinidad because they would be able to use them very, very swiftly. We have another 20,000 or so which are going to expire by the end of August.
The Prime Minister said to date more than 30,000 vaccines have been given to other countries in the region. He also noted that SVG does not expect any more vaccines under the COVAX facility. However, they are still in the process of procuring the Sputnik vaccines from Russia.
I also gave instructions Friday morning when I was in Venezuela, when I spoke to the Chief Medical Officer, to execute an order in relation to the Sputnik and the quantity for the first dose they want to give. If we can't deal with all of it, we will purchase it, and we will give. I'd spoken to one other government in the region before, and they said that if we had bought, they will take some from us.
Procuring vaccines from Cuba is also being explored. The Prime Minister pointed out that SVG has to be prepared for the long haul in dealing with COVID-19, as it is predicted that the virus will be with us for a long time, if not our entire lifetime. He again urged people to get vaccinated as stronger strains of the virus are expected.
That anybody who is reading and studying this matter sensibly and being properly advised would know that you're likely to have another pathogen, maybe more dangerous, more than likely more dangerous than COVID-19. So I'm just alerting everybody, as is my job, to what are the risks which are ahead and the importance of us to take the COVID vaccine.
And local taxi drivers have been equipped with the relevant information regarding vaccination against COVID-19 as health officials continue the drive to up the rate of vaccinations island-wide. The Agency for Public Information, API, said in a news release, in addressing a sensitization session held at the Mike Finley Pavilion at Arnesville last Thursday, infectious disease specialist Dr. Gerald Thompson emphasized that if the right actions are not taken, the COVID-19 pandemic is likely to continue, noting that there are side effects from the pandemic in terms of a social fallout. The agency said Dr. Thompson alluded to people being depressed and a rise in job losses, especially in the tourism sector, where he noted there has been a significant decrease in tourist arrivals. Stressing that taxi drivers are a part of the first point of contact, Dr. Thompson told the taxi operators it is important for them to safeguard themselves against the threat of COVID-19 and get vaccinated to provide a high level of protection for themselves and others. Chief Executive Officer of the SVG Tourism Authority, Glenn Beach, who also addressed the forum, told the taxi drivers the country stands a better chance of returning to normalcy if they are vaccinated. Beach pointed out that if this country is not on the UK's green list by a certain time, it will not get Virgin Atlantic, stressing that his team has worked hard to get these airlines to SVG. The Tourism Authority CEO also told the taxi operators that cruise lines will not return unless the vaccination rate increases, and if they do return, all tours are going to be in a bubble. And according to him, the taxi drivers are the ones to suffer most. Carnival Monday and Tuesday holidays in July have been pushed back to September. This was announced on radio today by Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, who said the new holiday dates will be September 6th and 7th. This is the second consecutive year since the COVID-19 pandemic that the July holidays have been pushed back. That should be the July holidays for Vincimas have been pushed back.
We're working this year like we did last year on the replacement on those the former Carnival days. Yes, Monday and Tuesday, and we gave back last year those holidays in August. August the 1st was a Saturday, and we gave the 3rd and 4th, Monday and Tuesday, first Monday and Tuesday in August. This year, we're giving them in September in replacement, September the 6th and 7th.
The Prime Minister said September was chosen for the holidays, bearing in mind that examinations for the Caribbean Primary Exit Assessment, CPEA, and CXC are now scheduled for late July and August.
The students are writing their exams in August. They have enough distractions already. We don't want them to have more distractions by having them when they're supposed to be doing their final push towards studying now, whether it's the CPEA or whether it's the CXC or the CAPE. We don't want them to be to be distracted there. And the CAPE exams, I'm told, finish on the CAPE exams finish on Friday the 3rd of September.
Meanwhile, on radio on Sunday, the PM sought to offer some clarity on Senator Ashel Morgan's ability to keep her senatorial position while facing a criminal charge. Morgan was on Friday granted bail after pleading not guilty to a charge of assault with intent to commit wounding stemming from a shooting incident in Diamond on April 13th, in which Cornelius John was shot in his leg. Speaking on WeFM's Issues at Hand program, the PM said while the leader of the opposition has been requesting Morgan's removal from the House of Assembly, in which she also serves as Deputy Speaker, the request is not a viable one based on the rules which govern the House.
Leader of the opposition asked in his motion that the House must suspend Ashel. The House doesn't have any power under the standing orders to suspend Ashel. The House cannot suspend Ashel if Ashel, the Speaker can, if Ashel breaks the rules in the House, as has happened from time to time where a member gets suspended by the Speaker for his or her conduct in the House. But the issue is this. If you are sentenced, the law says, if you read the Constitution, if you're on a sentence of murder anywhere in the Commonwealth, or if you're serving a term of imprisonment in excess of 12 months, you're disqualified from sitting in the Parliament. Of course, that's a legal position. There are circumstances in which a person may feel that it may be politically advisable for them to resign, to ask for leave of absence, or whatever the case may be. If you want to have a leave of absence for whatever reason the Speaker considers it a reasonable request, the Speaker can give you a leave of absence.
The Prime Minister clarified that unlike public servants who may be asked to take leave or be suspended during a criminal trial, the same does not apply to the Senator or her co-accused, Karim Nelson, Assistant Director of Public Prosecution.
If you look under the Constitution, there's several. You have a security of tenure as a public servant, and the Constitution provides for special rules in respect of public servants, for that very privilege you have for security of tenure. For instance, if you look at all the fundamental rights and freedoms, you would see that there is always something qualifying that in relation to public servants. And then, under that provision, particular regulations are made. Ashel Morgan is not a public servant in the way in which she would hold the office of senator, but she doesn't hold the office of public office as a public servant.
PM Gonzalez further went on to highlight the constitutional provisions which protect Morgan's removal from her current post.
Let's look at some fundamental rights. Take, for instance, protection of assembly and association. Section 11. 11.1, except with his own consent, a person shall not be hindered in the enjoyment of freedom of assembly and association. Then it goes on in subsection 2, nothing contained in or done under the authority of any law shall be held to be inconsistent with or in contravention of this section, to the extent that the law in question makes provision, C, that imposes restrictions upon public officers that are reasonably required for the proper performance of their functions, and except insofar as it is reasonably justifiable in a democratic society. The same thing, the freedom of conscience, that's formulated a different way. Freedom of expression. So in the Constitution, there are many constitutional derogations from the absoluteness of the declaration of a freedom or a right, and there are some specifically in relation to public servants.
Public Service Week 2021 came to a close last Friday with an award ceremony and showcase from the various governmental departments. Minister of Labour Frederick Stevenson, in his address, thanked public servants for their hard work in ensuring persons were met with some form of normalcy as the island continues to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic and the post-explosive eruption of La Soufrière.
The Public Service Week of activities is celebrated under the theme Resilient Public Service, appreciating the spirit and strength of the public service. Although our nation is severely affected by the negative impacts, as mentioned before, of COVID and the recently erupted La Soufrière volcano and dengue, we stand resolute and strong with the knowledge and comfort that Almighty God is in control. It is with deep sense of gratitude that I stand here this afternoon to share in this momentous occasion to recognize and applaud each ministry within the public service for their tremendous support to national development, but more so to your untiring efforts in bringing about some sense of normalcy to the livelihood of the citizens of this blessed nation in the so-called new norm.
Special guest speaker at the event, Romario Constance, a public servant in the Public Health Sanitation Department, said while sanitation may not be viewed as a prestigious job, the work done by himself and his colleagues plays an important part in maintaining the health of every Vincentian.
In life, everyone has a role to perform, to have a proper function in society. Can you imagine a society where everyone is doctors, everyone is lawyers? Who will take care of it? The Public Health Department has been in existence for over 75 years, and I'm proud to be a part of a team that keeps SVG clean. We are essential to keeping you healthy. Not only medical practitioners keep you healthy, but also having a clean environment maintains your health.
The National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, was presented with a special award, which Director of NEMO, Michelle Forbes, was on hand to receive. Other departments which were awarded were unable to collect their awards due to the COVID-19 restrictions.
This award is being presented to the National Emergency Management Organization on behalf of the Public Service, the Ministry of the Public Service, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and it says, "Thank you, appreciating the spirit and strength displayed by the public servants towards their continuous contribution to the sustainability of the nation." And this afternoon, I present this award to Director Michelle Forbes.
The day's event also included several live and virtual performances. The Ministry of the Public Service, Consumer Affairs and Sports is conducting 3 one-day training workshops for public service supervisors as part of a project to establish an Employee Assistance Program, EAP. The first workshop commenced today and targets supervisors with responsibility for human resource management within their respective ministries and departments. A total of 60 persons will be trained during the period, which will end on June 30th. The workshop aims to provide supervisors with the necessary knowledge and skills to facilitate effective implementation of the program. The program is a work-based intervention program designed to assist public service employees in resolving personal problems that may be adversely affecting their performance on the job. The program, which is delivered at no cost to employees, is intended to reduce the occurrence of low productivity and absenteeism, improve employees' work-life balance, create an avenue for employees to maintain their mental health and well-being, and strengthen institutional arrangements. The EAP is expected to be officially launched as a recurrent program in the third quarter of this year. Lieutenant Commander Ralphie Ragge of the SVG Coast Guard Service became the fourth Vincentian national to graduate from the United States Naval War College, USNWC, located in Rhode Island, New York. This naval institution for over 130 years, this naval institution has provided training to military and paramilitary personnel from 137 different countries worldwide. SVG was represented in the last two academic years, 2019-2020 and 2020-2021. Lieutenant Commander Ragge was among 58 students representing 51 different countries who participated in the training course. He described his experience as one riddled with challenges brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic and the eruption of the La Soufrière volcano. He noted, however, that it was a rewarding experience, comforted by the fact that the Coast Guard Service made a remarkable contribution to assist residents in the aftermath of the eruption. The USNWC program is a residential program that runs for a one-year period. According to Lieutenant Commander, the program offered a broad interdisciplinary curriculum in contemporary security studies that encompassed addressing and dissolving a diverse spectrum of regional and global issues and perspectives. Upon successful completion of the course, Lieutenant Commander Ragge was awarded a diploma in recognition of Navy and Joint Professional Military Education in National Security, Strategy and Policy, and Joint Military Operations. He was also awarded an Academic Excellence Certificate for Best in Writing. The other Vincentians who have attended the college were former Commander of the SVG Coast Guard Service, David Robin, Superintendent of Police, Benzel Samuel, and Lieutenant Commander Dion Henry.